to talk about in our Apex segment is, where does Demon Days fall? Is this their finest album, or is there another that betters it? Basically, is this record the Mount Everest, or should we be looking down at the bottom of the sea? As a way to frame this week's episode, Jamie, I just want to touch on some of the producers that Gorillaz have worked with over the last 20 years, because I think it's worth noting that over 7 records, they got the debut, Demon Days, Plastic Beach, Humans, a few others as well. They've worked with quite a lot of names, the likes of Dan the Automator, Danger Mouse, James Ford, Remy Kabaka Jr., Twilight Tones, Steven Sedgwick. I mean, like on their new album, Song Machine, which is coming out, I think it's already out actually. There's like 10 producers just on that album alone. And I think that this experimentation with producers, along with Damon's, creativity and all the guests they have on, has meant that you could never claim that Gorillaz have kind of stood still in terms of sound from album to album, because they're quite unsentimental in that regard, I think. All of this is just quite a long precursor, basically, to say that in a parallel universe, Jamie Cameron has become an executive producer at Parlophone Records, which is Gorillaz' label. And Jamie, you now have the final say over their new album and the direction that it's going to take musically. So what I want to know is, what kind of law are you going to be laying down with Damon Albarn? Are you going to be telling him, don't want any of that Demon Days rubbish, lad. You can forget The Fall as well. I want Humans Part 2 by Monday, or your days here are numbered. What are you going to be saying?
Well, there's one thing that I would make abundantly clear, which is that maximum 12 tracks. I am so done with bloated double albums, and this isn't even necessarily Gorillaz specifically as much as Humans that did apply to Humans. There's just so many albums out there these days that can be improved by just getting rid of a few of the tracks. Like, release a B-sides album if you want, which they did. That's what The Fall is, kind of. But don't feel the need to put every song you wrote in a 2-year period onto an album. Besides that, honestly, I just let Damon do his thing. I'd be like, fucking 12 tracks. Besides that, have your day out.
So brevity is the key for Jamie Cameron, is that right?
Well, not as much brevity. Well, yeah, brevity as well as like a bit more, having the ability to edit yourself.
Quality over
yourself.
Quantity.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
Well, thinking about that, have you got a favourite Gorillaz album? Do you think Demon Days is their best?
I don't know, man. I think, first of all, this is not like an Apex situation in which you've got Mount Everest and then like Netherlands next to it. I would say that there's like kind of Mount Everest, K2, whatever the tallest mountain in the world is, I don't know. There's 3 albums that are really high up there. For me, they're Plastic Beach, the debut, and then Demon Days. I think all 3 of them are really, really high up. Personally, right now, I think their Apex is Plastic Beach. I think it's their poppiest, production-wise, like it's their most kind of glittering and fancy sounding. It's the thing about the first 2 records is that they can be a bit relentlessly dark, and the production is, if you listen to them non-stop, it's a bit muggy. Is that a fair point? Yeah,
but I think that's what I like about the debut quite a lot. It's really kind of oozy sludge.
Wow, you're really selling it, oozy sludge.
But I know exactly what you mean about Plastic Beach, because for me, the scale and like the opulence on that album is crazy. Like you've got all these mad orchestral openings that sound incredibly grand. Yeah. But I just think some of the stuff on their debut, like Tomorrow Comes Today, Man Research, Clapper, whatever it's called, 5/4, I just quite like how it's like really rugged, really kind of psychedelic. So yeah, I don't. So
you say their debut is their Apex? Okay, no, they're all downhill from that.
I think Demon Days is their best album, but in terms of if I could, get Damon to, carry on a sound from a specific record, I'd really like to see what kind of sequel they could make to their debut at this point, with all the kind of connections and collaborations that they have. Because there's not actually that. I think there's maybe two appearances on the first one. There's the
Delta from Homo Sapien.
Yeah. Whereas Plastic Beach and Demon Days and Humans have obviously got absolutely countless number of collaborators. Yeah. And then The Fall and the Now and their debut to some extent have far less. So yeah, I also think it's kind of interesting. There's seems to be kind of 2 different types of Gorillaz albums in terms of like explicit collaborators. That's kind of interesting to me. I quite like the idea that he's in the studio with all these different people, and then on the next album he just by himself because he's getting fucking fed up with having to work with everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, and by that logic, right now he is working with everyone, because Song Machine, the whole concept is that every single track is produced by someone else and collaborating with someone else. And honestly, I really, really like the singles so far. Like, I think they've all been good, and I think this could be, if he can moderate himself, and we'll see what happens in the track listing. This could be, you know, the Gorillaz album that is kind of a real return to form. So yeah.
So we're saying Demon Days or Plastic Beach or the debut.
Yeah, the three peaks. We'll go with
three
the three
peaks.
peaks.
Scarfell Pike, the one in Wales, and Ben Nevis.
What do you mean the one in Wales? How dare you?
Snowdon,
Snowdon,
that's it. My bad.
Unbelievable. Yeah.